Hey everybody, alright, I just got this awesome guitar from my finance girl, and I'm going to do a review on it. This is my first full body guitar, first real full body guitar. I normally play the 7/8, the 3/4, the thin bodies, much easier for me. So, I don't really know how good the action is or if the neck is bowed or anything. Let me zoom in on the strings. Let me try to zoom in on the strings. Hopefully you can see them. I don't think this thing's been restrung in a couple years. So let me just pluck some of the strings. Listen to that. So it sounds like the strings really aren't ringing. I almost thought they were plastic, like kind of like classical strings, nylon. They just don't have the ringing sound, and they sound dead. They're really flat. So I'm going to put some strings on here. I'm going to clean this thing up, put some strings on it, and I think it's going to be an incredibly awesome guitar to play. So let me go put some new strings on here, and then I will do a review on my first full body Gibson Epiphone guitar that I just got from my awesome finance friend. Thank you. Back soon. Hey everyone. Alright, I've got this Epiphone, Gibson Epiphone, and I'm having a lot of trouble fretting some of these basic 5 fret up in the first 5. Alright, let me start this again. Hey everyone. I've got this Gibson Epiphone here, and to me, I'm having a lot of problem fretting basic chords. So what I'm going to do, what I've already done, but I'm going to show you what you can do, is you need to check the relief on the neck. And there's a ton of videos online about this. The relief is pretty much, you've got the string that goes across. If the hopefully you can see my hand, it's bowed down a little bit. If the top of the fretboard is completely flat and there's not a gap between the top of the frets and the bottom of the strings, then you've got a flat neck, or it's called no relief. When you have where the fretboard is bowing downward like this, when it bows too much, you're going to have a difficult time playing your notes. And if it bows in the other direction like this, it's called back bowing, where this, instead of this being flat, it would kind of be curved. So what you would see is the frets are touching the bottom of the middle strings and they're far away from the outer strings. That's back bowing. If you have the opposite, which is you have a gap, your gaposis is in the middle of this of the fretboard, and everything looks fine on the outer ends like this, then you've got a problem. Either way, if it's back bowing or if it's I don't know what the word is, forward bowing or bowing in this direction, then you've got to adjust the action. I mean, not the action. You need to adjust the truss rod. That's what you need to do. You need to adjust the truss rod so that the neck flattens out, or you get rid of your gap, or if it's like this, that you bring the neck back up so it's flat. Normally, on a guitar, all right, I need to turn the camera up a little bit. Normally, well, I won't do that. I'll do it this way. Normally, on a guitar, you would go into the sound hole over here, and there is a little nut. There's something that an Allen head or a hex head wrench would go into. Normally that's what you have. You've got a screw that, you've got an Allen screw, an Allen head screw, and your hex tool will go in there and adjust, tightening the rod or loosening the rod, and that will adjust. This rod goes through the neck, and that will adjust your relief. That's what it's called, the relief. On this Epiphone, this Gibson Epiphone, it's done over here. There's a little cover over there, and you remove the 3 screws and the nut the Allen head screw will be in there. So the way to test it, there's many different ways to test your relief. One of the ways to test it is you get a capo and you pop it on the first fret, and then you go over. Some people want you to press on the 12th fret, other people want you to press on the 14th fret, 12, 13, 14 over there, which is really, the whole idea behind this is if you're pressing on the 1st fret and you're pressing down on the 14th fret, then you are pressing on the outermost parts of your working neck. And then you go in with a set of feeler gauges. Okay, let's see. I already measured this and it was somewhere around 11, so not that it matters. But once it's before the 1st fret, you're down on the 1st fret, and then you're down on the 14th fret over there. Like I said, some people say 12, but you really want to do it the whole length of the of your fretboard, and the 14th fret is where this comes to the body. So you press down on the 14th, and then you want to go over to 3, 5, 7. You want to go to the 7th fret, which is really the middle, because you're pressing down from 1 to 14, so the middle would be the 7th fret. You want to go to the 7th fret, and you want to take your feeler gauge, and you want to stick it between the string and the bottom of the string and the top of the fret. Now, I already did this, but I'm doing this in the video so you can see. 0.011, it slides in there perfectly. If I go with 0.012, it won't go through. It will raise the string up a little bit. And the idea behind that is that I can see that there is a fairly big gap. You know, if you're a hard player, 0.011, 012 might be okay if you really play hard. If you don't play hard, if you do some finger picking or your strings don't really flop all over the place, then you might want a lower gap in there. You might want to straighten things out a little bit. And normally on my guitars, I like to play on a 0.08. Is that right? 0.10? Yeah, 0.08, 0.07. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to here and I'm going to adjust the truss rod, and then I'm going to give it some time to settle. A lot of people say you don't need to give it time to settle. Other people say it takes a while for the wood to settle, for everything to settle down, so give it a little bit of time. You don't want to turn it a lot, maybe a quarter of a turn. I'm going to be trying to get rid of the upward bow, so I believe I'm going to be tightening it, so I'm going to be going clockwise. I think that's how it is. And my goal is just to get rid of the gap. Right now I've got the string. This is the string. Let me go here for the camera. Imagine this is the string, and I've got a gap in the center of 0.011, and I want to make it 0.0. Is that right? 0.011. Yeah, 0.011, 0.008. That's what I want, is 0.08. If it back bows, then it goes like this. But I have a gap in the center, and I want to flatten it out. I want to flatten out the neck so that there's not as much relief in there. Relief is the gap. It's the little gap between the string, the bottom of the string and the top of the frets. So I'm going to be making that adjustment. That should clear things up with me being able to play. I don't really like how, I don't know if you can see this, but if you can, I don't really like how the strings are all seated into the nut over there. That's not good. They should be higher up. I've got number 11 strings in there. This probably was made for 12 or 13 strings. So, but it looks like the action over here is good. You don't want to really do adjusting of the relief. You don't want to adjust the relief to adjust your action. Action is mostly done by the filing of the notches in the nut, and it's done by the filing or raising the saddle. And the saddle will control one side of the string's height, and the nut will control the other. So once you've got that flat string going across, if your relief is off, then you end up with a problem in the center, which a little bit affects action, but you should not be adjusting the relief for the reason of action. So I've noticed on my guitars when I adjust when I have a relief problem, when I flatten things out a little bit, it makes it a lot easier to play. Be careful. Well, the good thing about adjusting the relief is that if you mess up, you can always turn it back. The problem is that when you adjust it too much or it starts to back bow, the strings get right down on the fret and you start getting buzzing. You might get buzzing on some of the strings, you might get buzzing towards the end or towards this end or towards the middle, but you're going to start getting buzzing. And when you get, that's why you want to do all of this slowly. Go in here and adjust your action first, play it for a few days, make sure that the action, the relief that you just did is not going to make your strings buzz. And if they don't buzz, then I guess the next step would be doing your adjustments on your saddle or your nut. I don't really want to mess with the nut. I don't want to put a new nut on here. I just want to flatten this thing out. And that is the way that you get rid of buzzing on a guitar, or that you flatten the neck out so that you don't have a huge gap between the bottom of the string and the top of the fret. And remember, it doesn't have to do, right over here, this guitar's got a massive gap between, towards the end, towards the 12th, 14th fret. It's got a big gap, but that is not adjusted by doing the relief. That's adjusted by going all the way down and working on the saddle to lower the strings down there. And if you have a problem with playing your open notes over here, if you've got buzzing, that could be caused by relief, but a lot of times it's caused by the nut is worn and the strings are way too low into the nut. Normally you don't want, I think you can see it on here, normally you don't want the, you want the string to be kind of like that. You want it to ride above the top of the nut a little bit. You want it to be not sunk all the way in, like these strings are down here. Those are completely sunk in. I can put my finger right above it and most of the strings, my nail won't even get caught on them. So that means that it's too low, but I'm not getting buzzing over here. I do have a little bit of problem playing some of the open chords, and that's normally related to the nut. But like I said, I don't want to mess with the nut on here. I'm strictly going to go in and adjust the action to make things a little better. And it is a little bit high over here. It's the height is too high by a couple thousandths of an inch, but I really don't want to pull the saddle out and file it down. If I have to, I will, but that's last on my list. So hopefully some of this info that I've rambled out is helpful to you in adjusting your guitar. There's a zillion other sites online, lots of videos that will walk you through what order to do it in, but normally you want to do your action. You want to not action, I keep saying that. Normally you want to do your truss rod first to make sure everything's straight. And then after that, then you start making your other adjustments. I like to avoid dealing with the nut because I don't want to put a new nut on here. If you file too much, you are either going to have to put a new nut on your guitar. You're going to have to buy files that will make the strings not get caught on the rough edges, so you're going to have to buy expensive files. Dealing with a nut, it's not the end of the world, but I don't want to do it right now. So that's it. Happy playing. Make sure you watch all my other cool videos, and you can go on the main page over there, and there's a little thing that YouTube's got set up so you can donate to my channel. Thank you. Alright, I just wanted to show you the rest of this just so you can see kind of what I'm doing. That's where the cover used to be. This is an Allen wrench, an Allen head wrench or a hex head wrench. So you take the, you got to do this carefully. You take the, it's kind of difficult to do with one hand, I don't have the tripod now. You take your Allen wrench, okay, I've got it in there, You can see it is sitting in one position. It's kind of like at the 10 o'clock position. And so what you want to do now, what I'm going to do now, is I'm going to take this and I'm going to turn it clockwise. Kind of hard to do with one hand. So let's see if I can do that. I'm going to turn it. It's usually a tight turn. Like I said, I'm at the 10 o'clock position, so I'm going to try to turn it. Oh, that doesn't want to turn. All right, hold on. All right, I ended up taking the tool out, but I had to do it twice. There's not a lot of room in here. Usually you're supposed to take these strings off, loosen everything. I didn't want to hassle with that. I ended up turning it probably, it was a 10 o'clock position before. I probably turned it to about 12 o'clock and then went again to the 2 o'clock position. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the capo back on the 1st fret, and then I'm going to go press down on the 14th fret, and I'm going to measure the gap at the 7th fret, and I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to see if I change the height, the gap between the bottom of the string and the top of the fret. All right, what I ended up doing is I ended up going from about 0.011 to about 0.010. And I want to go to about 0.008, which is very low, but that's what I want to do. And I couldn't get enough room in here to turn the tool, so I loosened the number 4 string, pulled it out of the way. It's over there, pulled it out of the way. I'm going to be able to go in here. I'm making huge adjustments on this thing, and hopefully, you got to be careful. You do have to be careful. If you got to make sure you don't strip the truss rod. You have to make sure you don't strip the head, so you want to make sure that the tool is seated inside, fully in there before you turn it. And you want to hold on carefully and make sure that your tool's not wobbling around and on an angle. You do need to do this the right way so you don't screw up the truss rod, or that's pretty much the end of the guitar. So you turn this one more time. I've already turned it a lot. I've turned it much more than I need to for one adjustment, but this thing is still way off and I want it to be tighter. So here we go. Okay, I put the tool in there and turned it, and that is it. It's not going any further, and I don't want to break it. So that's the best setting on this guitar. That truss rod is as tight as can be, and I just have to deal with it. I can make adjustments elsewhere, but that is the max. If you take that tool and you crank on it, you're going to snap that head off of the truss rod, and then you're going to throw your guitar in the trash can. Okay, to be continued. What I did, because I just didn't think that made any sense, a fairly new guitar would not adjust, and I didn't think that the truss rod was going to break, so what I did is I loosened the number 4 string and the number 3 string, pulled both of them out of the way so that I was able to get the wrench in with a good angle. So I was able to have room to move without banging into the strings, and I tightened it, and I brought the thing all the way down to 0.009, 0.008, and then I did one more turn after that. So when I did it to 0.009 and I played it, I was able to do bar chords in the 3rd and 5th fret that I wasn't able to do before. I was able to do them. Before then, I could barely get enough pressure to push down on the strings, and they sounded terrible. So let me go close all of this up. After you do a truss rod adjustment, you need to retune your guitar. The tuning changes completely. So you've got to tune all the strings again, and then you can do your measurements, maybe wait a day, let everything settle, and check it again. So I'm going to tighten the strings up, tune everything, make sure that it's not buzzing, and then I'll check it out tomorrow and do my final measurement. As long as it's not buzzing, I know I've tightened it down a lot. I probably turned that truss rod maybe half a turn, easily half a turn, and you're supposed to turn it like 1/8 of a turn at a time, but it was way, way out of adjustment. Okay, you know, the hard thing, at least for me, maybe not for everybody, but for me, putting a feeler gauge between the string and the fret, it's really hard for me to see if it's a reflection or if the string's moving. It's very difficult for me, even with magnifiers. But what I can tell you is that I'm able to play this guitar right now. I just went up and down the neck doing bar chords, and the guitar is ringing. It's ringing, I mean, not buzzing, it is ringing with beautiful sound. And it sounds incredible, whereas before it sounded kind of tinny and it was very difficult for me to play. Now it just sounds awesome. I mean, really awesome. I can't really, I didn't record it beforehand, so it's just my thought, my opinion that you have to take my word for. But this one adjustment alone, and yeah, it took me a little bit of time. I probably adjusted that screw half a turn, and I don't think I got that much adjustment out of it. I believe I was somewhere around 012 before, maybe 011, and it looks like I adjusted it down to about 09 or something. I'm not getting much more of an adjustment, and I don't want to break it, so I don't really think I need to go much lower. It sounds awesome. I have definitely straightened out the gap. That looks like a lot, but when I have the capo on the first fret over here, and I'm pressing down on the 14th fret over here, just visually I can look, and the gap between the string and the bottom of the string and the top of the fret is very low, but there is no buzzing anywhere on the fretboard. So that is how you adjust the action on an Epiphone or just about any other guitar.